Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in this very interesting session about investment and about actually startups in the MENA region. And today we are having a very interesting guest who will be sharing with us actually very important insights, which will help us all in defining what is the investment pattern in the Middle East. And at the same time, if you are a startup, how actually you can get and raise funds. I'm Mohamed Force. I'm the Global Head of Innovation in Almiral, and I'm responsible for the Digital Garden, which is one of the corporate acceleration for early stage startups focusing only in digital health. My background, it's in pharma and healthcare, focusing on digital health and how can we help the transformation from startups and at the same time from the investment as well side of the operation. So again, my objective today is to go with my very, very interesting guest today to go through this topic about the MENA region. How can you get investment? What you should do, what you shouldn't do, and try to get all your question after this to understand your future unicorns, how they should start from an investment point of view. I'm speaking from Spain, and today we have Lana Ghanem, who is the managing director for Hikma Fund, one of the largest corporation for pharmaceutical in Middle East, and most importantly, one of the biggest fund for digital health in the Middle East and the global as well. Very big, important player, and today we are getting tons of insights which will help you in your next step. So, if Lana, yes, hi Lana.
Hi, Mo. How are you?
I'm good. So, would you mind giving us a little bit of introduction about yourself, about your background, career, and at the same time, most importantly, Hikma, and
Sure.
why you are playing in this market?
Of course, of course. So happy to be here. So I was born and raised in Jordan, Palestinian Jordanian. Did my undergrad in finance and marketing in Canada. Did 3 years of investment banking in London, and after that, I did my MBA in the States. And at one point in my life, I was actually an aspiring filmmaker. So I mean, eventually, I did explore that for a bit, but I didn't end up pursuing it as a career. So after I graduated and from and got my MBA, I ended up joining Hikma Pharmaceuticals in 2012, initially as the assistant to the CEO. So I got to work on different projects, strategic projects across the company, including M&A mandates, business development, strategic market expansions. And then in 2015, I was reading up a lot about corporate VCs and how a lot of pharma companies are starting or establishing such funds. And for pharma, it was mainly originators like Pfizer, Sanofi, Merck, who were establishing such arms to invest in new chemical entities. But as Hikma, given that Hikma is a generic pharmaceutical company, it didn't really, that angle didn't really make sense for us. So what I was reading up a lot about digital health as well, and I thought that this would be an angle that could work for us and will actually, add a lot of value. So, as Hikma, we sell drugs, and how about we invest or plant seeds in startups in the digital health space that are working on innovative technologies that we don't know much about, that we can complement or use to supplement our offering as Hikma. So, for those of you who don't know, or much about Hikma, it's a global generic manufacturer. It's listed on the London Stock Exchange, and at the end of the day, it's we're at least if you ask me, we're all about becoming a healthcare solutions provider versus just selling drugs or being a drug manufacturer. So that basically fits kind of the vision, and at the end of the day, digital health is becoming a necessity than a nice to have. So this arm has been helping us kind of reach that goal.
Thank you for joining us today. So, as I mentioned, our objective today is to have a very open conversation about investment in Middle East. And as you said, you're already one of the biggest fund and the biggest players. Actually, if you look at Middle East players focusing only in digital health, definitely plenty of accelerators, plenty of VCs available in the market today. Couple of questions to start to, I would say, set the base for our audience today to understand. what is your biggest difference between you as a VC and accelerators? Because there is plenty of accelerators, and now digital health become actually so vibrant as a word. So all the accelerator now in Middle East started to say and digital health, like they added one more line of like and digital health. So what is the difference between what you are providing today from an expertise point of view, and at the same time, which type of startup you are focusing on?
Sure. Well, thanks, Mohammed. So, as Hikma, as I mentioned, we're a generic pharma company, and Hikma Ventures is essentially the corporate venture capital arm of Hikma. And the difference between us and other independent VCs or even accelerators is basically, we're a strategic investor, and by that I mean that obviously the the financials or financial metrics do matter when we conduct analysis and due diligence, but at the end of the day, equally the strategic angle makes also basically has as much importance as the financial aspect. So uh, at the end of the day, when we invest, we look at what's the value add that we can actually bring to the table. So when we sit on the boards of these companies that we invest in, we put them also kind of in touch with our if it's relevant, our R&D experts, our business development experts, our marketing experts, our technical engineering experts. So it depends on the field or the company that we're investing in. So they have resources to this big organization that can help them to grow. And secondly, Hikma could become a potential customer to these companies. So we're adding, another kind of, we're opening up this window of opportunity for them to act basically as a vendor to Hikma. Thirdly, I guess for us, we don't know much about digital health, right? Like as an organization, it's these experts that we're investing in who know the kind of the ins and outs of these technologies. So that was one of the reasons why we established Hikma Ventures, is to actually plant seeds in these companies that can actually feed back this information to our organization. So for example, we feature these founders in some events that we have across the company. We open it up to all Hikma 8,000 Hikma employees, and it's, I think, up to us as the venture arm. It's our responsibility to educate our colleagues about what's happening out there in terms of digital health technologies. So I guess this is kind of the difference that we between us and other independent VCs or accelerators out there. And in terms of our ticket size, it could range from as low as $100,000 and as high as $10 million. And we're solely focused on digital health, Mohammed. Like we're not a generalist fund. We specifically invest in digital health. Our aim is to grow this ecosystem, globally. We've invested in 12 companies so far, 10 in the US and 2 in Canada. And our aim, again, especially given that Hikma is the largest regional player in the Middle East, North Africa, is to bring these technologies to MENA. And we've actually about to announce our first strategic partnership with one of our portfolio companies. It's basically, a vocal biomarker company. And we're, partnering with them to co-develop the tool that they have for schizophrenia patients in the Middle East and North Africa. So these are the type of technologies that we're planning to bring to the region.
This is great, actually. And first of all, I know most of your investment is outside the region still, till today. And being a VC focused only in digital health as a terminology is quite new, actually, globally. It's not even here in the region alone, but it's in a global scale. It's a quite new. And even till today, really big pharma, they cannot differentiate between digital marketing and digital health. And those actually, it's one of the very interesting conversations. So maybe one of the things which is I would like to get your opinion is, how do you define digital health versus digital marketing? Which is, I understand for you it's very easy, but surprisingly till today, really big pharma, even they don't understand the difference. But also it's very important today for the audience that they understand, when we as a pharma say digital health, what does it mean? This is number one. Number two, uh, how do you see the landscape today in MENA region, for startups in MENA region focusing on digital health? Because I'm sure you're meeting a lot. What are the key gaps in this?
No, great questions. Thanks, Juaned. So in terms of the difference between digital health and digital marketing, the way I would phrase it is digital health is purely, about health tech, so healthcare technology, and digital marketing could be encompassed into that. So digital health is kind of the overarching umbrella, if you will, and under that you can put things like telemedicine platforms that are patient facing. You can put CRMs, or solutions that are trying to optimize customer relationship management tools that are kind of more provider facing. It's anything that could that pertains to patients, providers, all stakeholders, even pharma companies, that could either optimize or make certain processes more efficient. So one of the things within the digital health umbrella is kind of remote patient monitoring. Another thing is at-home diagnostics, and all of these actually technologies have become more mainstream than they were pre the pandemic. I think a lot of them gain momentum, and a lot of people who didn't have much knowledge about these tools now are more aware of them. So that's kind of the difference there. Digital marketing encompasses that, like it's about basically detailing, could be related to detailing doctors or physicians. It's a way for pharma companies to reach their customers, or either patients, providers, etc., digitally, rather than kind of using tools that are more archaic. So it's one of the things under digital health, in my opinion.
Do you think it's
And
fair to say that actually digital health is more focused on tools which is able to generate data that can help you to create action or task, which will help you either to treat patient better, to interact better, or even have a better outcomes from a pharmaceutical treatment, or at the same time doing it. It's not about only sales, because today most of the startups, when they look at this, we create, as you said, like a better detail aid, which is not digital health. Digital health is more about finding out a better way of doing the current action, which is, as you said, remote patient monitoring, sensors, and all of those tech for me. But it's creating those stream of data. As a pharma, we are able to create a better decision, a much more efficient way, a much better outcome for patients. So is it fair to say it's in this way?
100%. That's a very articulate definition. I mean, I'm not an articulate person myself, but like you answered the question in a very good way. But yeah, I mean, we find a lot of companies in digital health coming up to make kind of the lives of patients much kind of easier, much more convenient for the patient to see the doctor, and then gathering these insights to kind of study the behavior of these patients to cater better products for them. It also acts kind of the same way when you look at providers, when you look at payers. So it really, digital health is not just about the it's about kind of the patient journey, which includes payers or insurance companies, providers or doctors, pharma companies that are selling the medicines. So it's different kind of ways of doing things, and even within pharma it could be as technical as helping a pharma company expedite their clinical studies, for example, or helping them come up with a better way to find which drugs would work on patients. So all of these digital tools, as you rightly mentioned, provide insights that can then through AI and machine learning can provide very valuable insights that can help improve the world.
Yeah. And how do you see this as a landscape here? So, Lana, how do you see the landscape today from digital health startups in Middle East and the MENA region in general?
I think we're still, unfortunately, way behind the Western world or the US, like North America and Europe. And a few years back when we started the fund, it was really in its infancy. But I think, Mohamed, the pandemic really accelerated or expedited the growth of digital health. During the past 2 years, you can see a lot of companies coming up in terms of number of deals, or a number of companies that are either being established or are getting funding. You see, and that's both at a global level and regional level. You're finding a lot of traction with companies like At-Tibbi, for example, in telemedicine. So they're now partnering, or they partnered with the ministries of health in Jordan, and it just showcases how the pandemic helped educate the world in the region. Authorities, I think, were still kind of like skeptical when it comes to these platforms, but now they're more open. They're partnering with them. They see that at the end of the day, patients now cannot go to the hospital or the doctor when especially when you have high corona cases and people kind of flooding hospitals for more urgent care. So now if you don't have anything that's urgent and can be done via telemedicine, you can just do that with your provider or doctor. So and anyway, like if you look at the younger generation, like I look at my nephews and nieces, they really value convenience. And that's why I think it's digital health is really here to stay. It's just going to continue growing, and it's going to eventually become mainstream in the region. I know it's still early days, but I think we have a handful of very good companies that have been doing a very good job in coming up with technologies that cater to the MENA market. So it might be a model that already exists in North America, but they bring it here and they really customize it to fit the customers or the patients here.
Sure, it's a very good point. And Lana, when I spoke to multiple startups, I see two big issues, especially when we speak about digital health. Either one, that in MENA region, they don't understand the difference, so they don't have the knowledge about the topic. They are great engineers or great innovators. They come up with very nice idea, but they don't understand the regulations. They don't understand the industry itself. So they come up with a solution which, from their point of view, is great, but unfortunately is unviable for being used in pharma, for example, or patient support. At the same time, some other solutions, they simply go and let's try to build another Uber, so they always go, what is working? Let's build 25 more Ubers. No one think of like, okay, what should be next? Like self-driving cars. They don't want to do this. So a couple of advices for them. And what are the areas which you feel it's empty today? What are the gaps in the market today? Despite, yes, you said, I can imagine there is plenty of startups focusing on, let's say, telemedicine. But I don't think there is a single startup focusing on clinical trial recruitment, for example, which is maybe 60% of investment of pharma globally is about clinical trial recruitment only, which none of them. So where do you see the gaps, and what do you advise them to do?
100%. I think, as you rightly mentioned, in telemedicine, it's pretty much congested. You have the wide offerings that include companies like Visita and Tibbi, where it's not just telemedicine or teleconsultations, also booking. They have a clinic platform offered to physicians to manage their patients. So there are a bunch of it's kind of a full suite of offerings, if you will. And then you have ones that are drilling down on the mental health aspect, which I think is extremely important. I think I'm a big fan of these companies. It's usually a taboo subject or stigmatized in MENA, because if God forbid, like if you tell anyone that you're seeing a therapist, then they'll mark you as a crazy person. But I think this culture is changing as the new generation is coming up. So I mean, definitely a lot of startups in the space, but I don't think anyone has yet kind of drilled down a model that actually works. There's the B2B option, there's the B2C option, and I think there's a lot of potential, but still, like different companies are kind of exploring different models that may work. The third one, where we're seeing a lot of traction, I think it's an area that still obviously needs a lot of disruption. It's drug delivery. platforms. So you have, companies like Udawi, Shifa, there is Alma Health. So, these companies I think are onto something, but still I think, it's not going to be as easy as maybe, other platforms, because, sometimes in specific countries like Jordan, you can't easily just deliver medication. Maybe in the UAE, they're far more advanced now. In Egypt, it's kind of, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. But we'll see how things evolve. But the things that are lacking, I think, from the pharma point of view, I think clinical trials definitely is at least for us. We're really trying to find or work with our clinical team in MENA to find solutions for them when it comes to electronic patient reported outcomes in studies, or electronic clinical outcomes assessment, an electronic data capture EDC platform. So all these platforms we're finding in the West, not in our neck of the woods. And as Ras mentioned, like recruitment is another area. So I'm not sure, sometimes like when we ask the question, like I think the answer there was it's because regulations don't allow it specifically. Maybe there is something there, but I think there are kind of solutions where it allows kind of patient monitoring, capturing data when especially given that clinical trials are going virtual now,
decentralized
post-COVID.
Globally, and there is one single conference for decentralized clinical trial. It just happened last month, so
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. So, but again, it's what do you advise the startups to do?
I think just think outside the box. I mean, we have a lot of copycats, which I don't have a problem with that if they're catering to specific markets in MENA. So telemedicine, mental health, etc. We have a different market dynamic in MENA, but think outside the box, definitely. Another thing that I advise them to do is don't just think. I mean, if you think it's a great product, just make sure that you validate the product market fit, because it might be a great product in Europe, or for the European market or the US market, but it might not actually work out in MENA. So just make sure that at the end of the day, this has can actually be a good product once you commercialize it in MENA. And also in terms of scaling, just always think for 2 steps ahead. If you start this company, or you decide to come up with a specific product, think about what are the barriers to making this scale, because at the end of the day, in the US, they have 300 million people living there, so they have a huge market. But when it comes to MENA, you're talking about 20 plus countries with different dialects, with different populations, different authorities. So it's not like you get an approval, or the product works in Egypt, you can easily scale it to the next adjacent country. That doesn't work. So there are many challenges that you have to think about, especially like when it comes to, I mean, now we're in the process, as I mentioned, of partnering with one of our portfolio companies. And when it comes to Arabizing the platform, what we use in Jordan is very different than what we use in Algeria, than what we use in Saudi. So it's incredible.
It's true. And a question here as well, based on the same topic here, like you as an accelerator, or like not accelerator, VC fund, which you are expecting, actually, as you said, a company that already did a kind of understanding if this actually is it really a viable product, is it really working, and then they come to you for an investment. So I would say it's not very early stage. I would say it's a seed stage. So my point here, because what those insights you're highlighting now, like let's speak about CRO, or all of those or all the like the clinical trial part, which is empty from Middle East, and it's really important, and it's a lot of money, it's a lot of investment, and it has a huge benefit for patients if it happened from a decentralization. If you look at today, I'm not saying from a brain point of view, we don't have the brains. We have the brains, but we don't have the knowledge or understanding. If you look at all the accelerators in the MENA region today, none of them is actually digital health accelerator. Most of them are and digital health. They are fintech and digital health. They are something and digital health. With everyone now claims that I am the digital health. But if you look at the actual people who understand the digital health, they are not completely involved in this. So what do you see is missing today? For me, I feel there's a big miss of a focused accelerator. If in Spain here we have something called Barcelona Health Hub, which is focusing only on digital health. It's pure. Those type of accelerators, they don't exist in Middle East. How do you see this is happening? What else is missing? What is your wish list to start getting startups that quite polished before they meet you?
I mean, interestingly enough, I had a friend reach out a couple of months ago saying that, or asking us if we'd potentially be interested in starting a digital health venture studio where, or it's sort of like an accelerator where like people come up with ideas and then you basically, do a lot of hand holding in helping them kind of transform that into an actual company. The thing is, like Manad, we actually toyed with this idea of starting an accelerator in MENA for digital health, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's we are seeing a lot of companies pop up, but it's not to the level where we think that the accelerator is going to actually help kind of these ideas come to reality. So I mean, as a as an investor, like for us, we prioritize investing in companies at kind of the seed stage and post that, not the pre-seed and kind of building the foundations, because that requires a lot of resources, which I think currently we don't have. It's going to require a lot of time from our teams internally, who now we're connecting with these startups and they can kind of use this or speak the same language. But when it comes to kind of transforming ideas into companies, we're not in that kind of in that type of business. Like I would personally, at a personal level, because I'm passionate about it, I would love to mentor founders who are at this level. But it's, I think, the level of scale up that it's that level that we're actually struggling
They can
in
speak to
MENA.
them. Yeah, the polishing moment. Yes.
The polishing, yeah, exactly. I don't think it's kind of turning the idea into a company or kind of the venture studio part. I think it's more on, okay, we've raised the seed or potentially Series A. Like, what do we do now? Like, how do we scale? How do we take it?
And then we go to the next step.
Exactly.
This is fair as well. And what again? Because I'm sure after this meeting today, we'll be receiving hundreds of emails. So, what do you advise them before sending it? Like, what do you see them like before sending an email? Because one note. Before sending to an investment or VC, you really need to be sure that you are not burning this contact. So if I have Lana's email, I would like to send one email that most probably at least I will have a conversation. Because if I send an email and I didn't get a conversation, it means either I burned my contact and I really like the terminology of burning the contact, because it's very hard to find and you are burning it. So my point, what do you want to see? What actually will make you, after reading the first cold email, you say like, I really want to speak to them?
Sure. I mean, one thing that's very basic, you might be surprised, is please go onto our website before you email us, because we do invest in digital health, but we're very aligned to Hikma's strategic areas of focus. So it's chronic diseases, autoimmune disease, oncology, respiratory. So it's those. There are like 4 to 5 areas where we have a strategic focus. So if you're women's tech company, I love that. I'm a woman myself and I'm all for it, but it's not part of Hikma's strategic areas of focus. If it's anything, I mean, you'd be surprised at how many. So we don't invest in therapeutics yet, right? And you imagine like how many therapeutics opportunities I receive per day. So just do your homework, like when you send an email, it really shows if it's a generic email that you've just sent to every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, versus a customized one where that we've invested. I'm usually impressed by the people who are like, oh, you invested in X and Y. We're actually in the same space. But we're different because of this. So I'm very impressed with kind of the customized one, not just kind of the burn your contact approach.
So it's a very valid point, and I think we're almost on time now. So we'll give some time for the questions. But if there is any note you would like to give it at the end for our followers today, it would be good to hear your last closing remark.
Sure. I mean, just going back to like words of advice. I mean, number one, don't underestimate the importance of being responsive to investors. If you're in the process of diligence, or you have different investors in the data room and who want to invest or interested in investing, make sure that you're responsive. Even if you can't respond to their questions or emails within days, just go back to them and tell them, oh, like let me get back to you by X date, or in a week or in 10 days. I'm busy doing this, busy doing that. Like I'll make sure I get back to you. Don't just disappear. We've witnessed that a lot in the region, unfortunately, and it's unprofessional. It really puts us off. And in many cases, it was good companies, but the founders just put us off when they acted this way. So just make sure that you are responsive, that you manage the investors' expectations, and always again, do your homework, because you need to know that this investor is a good fit with your company and with you, because at the end of it is a long-term marriage once you take that money. So make sure that you like them, make sure that there is chemistry between you and whoever is going to sit on your board or invest in your company, because it's really gonna become unpleasant if you end up taking money from the wrong people who have different principles and probably different values. So it should be the diligence process should be a two-way street, not just the investor doing diligence on the company.
It's really impressive, Lana. Really, thank you. And my last point here as well, I would like even everyone here to understand there's huge opportunities in digital health. Digital health is maybe one of the most exciting topics now globally. It's still not in the Middle East as it should be. I think patients and pharma are looking for some solutions. So maybe a little bit more of reading what's happening outside, because as Lana mentioned during the conversation today, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are some solutions, there are some directions in the world, and there's tons of investment taking place. So maybe it's a very good idea is to start from there, see what's happening, see how this actually can be impacting. You don't need to reinvent it. You don't need to come with the new Uber of the world, and you don't need just to copy blindly. Make sure that if you come with a solution, make sure that it actually makes sense, not for the whole Middle East. It started by country, and make sure that it fits what the business need. Because if you are reaching out to a corporate or business accelerator in this case, or even business VC, it needs to be aligned of what is the investment. Maybe you have the best idea in the world, but it doesn't fit my company, so I will not change our organization's strategic direction because of one startup. So make sure that it fits, make sure that it makes sense, and read and see what's happening outside and see how this can be translated into the region here. Saying this, I want to again thank you, Lana, for this. It was great conversation. And if you have any question, please type it or share it with us.